Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 34 of our Reddit series. This one, as you all know, is some more entitled parents, and I know you're gonna love this one. So a massive shout out to everyone who subscribed lately. We've gone from about 48,000 subscribers to nearly 57 in the space of 2 days, and that is incredible. Thank you again, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Now sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. So before I get into this one, just a quick shout out to Whole Music. I don't think I've ever seen my name in a Reddit post before, so I'm like a little kid in a candy store right now. But that aside, let's get into the post. Hi Fresh, Bumfris, Miserybox and Geofilms. I'm still new to posting onto this, so here we go. So this happened yesterday and I wanted to share the story today. I was on my way to a date, surprisingly she accepted, and I took the bus. I sat next to a kid who seemed around 8 or 9 years old who was filthy. I had no choice but, so I go sit next to him. I pull out my Nintendo Switch to kill time while I arrive at my bus stop. The kid was watching me play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and I didn't mind him watching me play until he attempted to grab my Switch with his filthy hands. So I turned the other way and I heard him whisper to his dad, "Dad, may I play that man's Nintendo Switch?" The dad replied with, "Sure son, you can play whatever you want." And the kid faced me with a grin on his face as he proceeded to grab my Switch. I saw his hand about to touch my Switch and I moved it away from him. He started to complain saying, "My dad said I was allowed to, so give it to me now." At this point I was annoyed and decided to pack it away. The kid got upset and said, "Dad, this man won't let me play his Nintendo Switch." The dad looked at me and said, "Dude, just let my son play your Nintendo Switch or you'll be facing some serious problems." Meanwhile, the kid was smiling thinking I was going to hand it to him. I just laughed at him and simply said, "No." The kid began to cry and said, "Give me the game. Give me the game. Give me the game." He was getting angry and started raising his voice. "Give my son your Nintendo Switch now or else." So I just told him, "I'm in no mood for arguing and fighting. I'm on my way to a date." He was laughing and responded, "With your ugly looking ass, I really doubt you're on your way to a date, bud. Just give my son your Nintendo Switch now." The bus was near my stop, so I told him, "Dude, just buy your son the console. It isn't even that much. If I had to risk this date, I would love to wrestle you. Considering I've wrestled since I was 6 years old and I was varsity in all 4 years in high school, so this guy doesn't scare me." I saw my stop coming near and said to the kid, "Do you want to play with my Switch?" And he said, "Yes," while wiping tears off his face. I said, "Go buy yourself one." I quickly went to exit the bus and I turned to look at him and he was crying even more. And then his dad stood up and started to chase after me. The bus door closed and I saw the man at the door. I waved at him as he was filled with rage. For those who want to know how my date went, she wanted to go on another date with me. So I hope you all enjoyed this. You know, after all the horrible endings we had in our last episode, I'm really glad we can start this episode with something a little bit more wholesome. Yes, the entitled parent and the entitled kid were both pretty horrible people, but at the end of the day, at least this guy didn't give in. What I love about this one though, is that the entitled parent was left frustrated all the way until the end. You tend to see them get their way to a degree from time to time, but at least this time, they got a taste of their own medicine. So my friend and I, let's call him Barry, loved Nerf. We'd gotten 3 guns and darts for us and a friend who was walking. We were at the park at the time and an entitled parent and kid were on the swings. We got ready and were just shooting each other until the little kid came over to our box and pulled out the gun we'd prepared for our friend. We don't really mind until the boy starts bawling his eyes out. Apparently, he shot himself and cried. Then the mum comes up and yells, "Hey, what is your problem?" We had no clue what she was talking about at the time because we were busy fighting. And then she goes, "My son just hurt himself because of your gun." And I replied, "Well, sorry. This is kinda your fault for letting him play with it though. I didn't know it was loaded at the time." And then she says, "Well, I think that you should apologize and let him keep it." Yeah, this entitled parent wanted to take my gun because her son had shot himself, which is not my problem. And why was he playing with my stuff in the first place? I was probably 11 at the time, so this was scary. She started cussing and yelling while her child kept crying. The yelling probably didn't help. My friend went and grabbed all the guns while we were arguing and took the one from the kid, and she noticed and got livid. She decided, what shall I do? I know, slap this child that did nothing wrong. The perfect plan. She slapped me. At this point, it would be considered assault, and we decided probably the funniest idea was just shoot the lady. So we did. We shot her with some auto Nerf guns, and she got her child in a hail of darts and stormed off all pissed off with a screaming banshee. Of course, she kept screaming and threatening to call the cops and just rubbish before she gave up to the hail of darts. Well, on the bright side, I learned something positive today. If you want to try and get something for free, all you have to do is walk into a store, hurt yourself with it, claim that it's their fault for leaving it lying around, and then tell them that you want it for free. On another note, I have about 500 PS4s just lying around, and I definitely didn't use this method to get them, so if anyone wants one cheap, let me know. But for real, in future, I'm going to carry a Nerf gun around just in case I run into an entitled parent. Sorry for the bad writing, I'm on mobile. Me and my mum were going grocery shopping looking for some peppers. We found the peppers and began our way over to the checkout. My mum was in a wheelchair since she broke her leg and could not walk. The entitled mum walks over to us and asks, "Can my daughter have your wheelchair?" And my mum says, "No, I'm sorry, it's mine." And then the entitled mum goes, "My daughter needs it though. She broke her leg." I look over at her daughter and her leg is perfectly fine. So my mum says, "No ma'am, you cannot have my wheelchair. I broke my leg and I cannot walk." The entitled mum then goes, "No you did not. You're perfectly fine." She then tries to steal my mum's wheelchair from her. At this point, I couldn't do anything since I was only 8 at the time. I could see the daughter trying to get her entitled mum away from my mum. She was trying to tell her mum that she did not need it and was perfectly fine, but she didn't care. One of the employees saw entitled mum and came over to help. The cops came and arrested the entitled mum and I never saw her again. Moral of the story, don't be an entitled parent. I don't know what it is about people trying to steal wheelchairs from other people, but this is probably the 5th story I've seen in the last couple of weeks where an entitled parent has tried to steal someone's wheelchair. At least if you're trying to look for positives to take away from this story, it's nowhere near as bad as the wheelchair story from last week. This mum at least had the kindness to ask for the chair instead of just stealing it. I mean, that's kinda clutching at straws, but at least it's something, I guess? You know I'm just kidding. I hate these entitled parents just as much as you. So, as a bit of backstory, me and Entitled Kid were together for about 6 months or so, a decent time. Suddenly, Entitled Kid starts blanking me at school and runs away from me. Then a few weeks later, Entitled Kid breaks up with me as I wasn't talking to her, although she purposely didn't give me a chance to do so. I was a bit annoyed, but luckily moved on quickly and got on with it. Christmas rolls around and this happens. The entitled mum goes, "Hey, would it be okay if my daughter and your son meet up? It would be a good icebreaker." And my mum said, "No, sorry, I think it's best to give some space." She responds, "No, please. My daughter is still very fond of your son. It would be a good plan to meet up." So my mum says, "No, they broke up about 1 or 2 weeks ago. It's best to just have a bit of space for a while. My son would prefer that." And she says, "That's not fair. This is now very hurtful to me and my daughter." I then respond myself and write, "I feel uncomfortable meeting up with your daughter as she did just break up with me. I was attempting to communicate with her, but she just kept running away and ignoring me. Merry Christmas." And surprisingly, she just responds, "Oh, okay. Best wishes." Now in February, I receive a Valentine's card from a top secret admirer. It was obviously Entitled Kid. Eventually she admits that yes, she got a friend to write a card so I couldn't recognize the handwriting. Later on, she comes up to me in private and explains that she likes somebody else, so tried to end our relationship to ask him out. Hilariously, he rejected, so now she comes crying back to me wanting me back, and it's a firm no. She then demanded me to consider it. You know, I'm glad to say that at least today's episode has been a lot more wholesome. We always know the entitled parents and the entitled kids are going to be horrible, but it's nice to see people sticking up for themselves and not being just a pushover. We all know this girl was probably going to do the exact same thing again in the future, and quite frankly, probably belongs in the nice girl subreddit, but good on this guy for standing his ground and not taking her back. Me and my mum just went out of the hospital because I was having really severe allergies that day. My mum suggested that we go to a nearby Starbucks and she'll get us both hot drinks to ease our minds. While my mum was ordering our drinks, entitled parent with her 2 daughters approached me as I was scrolling through my phone. The entitled mum says, "Hi, is this seat taken?" And I say, "Yeah." And then she cuts me off to say, "Who are you with? Your mum? Your dad? Your friends? Then where are they?" I tried to speak, but she said all of those things rapidly and I couldn't respond because I was just in shock. And the daughter chimes in and says, "Mum, can we go? He obviously has his companion with him." The mum ignores the daughter and proceeds to question me. The other daughter in a louder tone then says, "Mum, can we go now? This guy has his companion and you're making a scene." I'm just in shock and couldn't move as they left the store with the entitled mum looking at me with an angry look. At this point, I was just feeling really bad and couldn't say a word as my mum approached me with our drinks and asked me if I knew the lady that approached me. I told her the situation and we just laughed it off. I made a comment the other day that entitlement breeds entitlement, but I guess I was wrong. Either that or these people have one really bad influence and one really positive influence in their lives. Here's hoping that they continue to take that positive influence and can actually spread some positivity into the world. Oh, also, who on earth asks if a seat's free and then proceeds to interrogate the person about who's sitting there? If you're going to be an entitled parent, do it right. Don't ask the question in the first place, jeez. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to keep this short. I don't have a lot to say today, which I know is super unlike me, but what I will say is thank you again for all the recent support. It's been amazing and I really cannot thank you all enough. Also, thank you to everyone who's joined the Discord server. We've hit 500 members, which has doubled in the last couple of days, so that is amazing as well. And if you haven't already, I would definitely suggest joining. But that is that from me. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. I do obviously hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you're all having a fantastic day. And I'll see you all tomorrow for another Reddit video. Bye.